For more than 6 decades, millions have known the unmistakable voice, restless spirit, and uncompromising artistry of Neil Young. His songs became the soundtrack to generations, carrying listeners through heartbreak, protest, love, loss, and hope. He earned a reputation as one of rock music's greatest storytellers, a man seemingly incapable of hiding his emotions once he stepped in front of a microphone. But there has always been another story. One that wasn't written into a hit record. One that unfolded quietly, behind studio doors, family homes, and the relentless glare of public attention. For decades, those closest to Neil Young have described him as fiercely loyal, but equally capable of walking away when he believed trust had been broken. Friends admired his honesty. Collaborators respected his uncompromising standards. Critics called him impossible to predict. Those who loved him often discovered that beneath the gentle voice and thoughtful lyrics lived a man whose convictions could be as immovable as stone. And somewhere within that complicated emotional landscape was one woman. Not simply someone he loved. Not merely someone who shared part of his extraordinary journey. But someone whose relationship with him became so emotionally complicated that, decades later, biographers, fans, and journalists still debate whether he ever truly found peace with what happened. Who was she? Was she a wife? A former lover? A woman who inspired unforgettable songs? Someone from the music business? Or someone whose influence reached far deeper than the public ever realized? The answer isn't as simple as gossip columns have suggested over the years. Because this story isn't really about scandal. It's about loyalty, about impossible choices, about love colliding with ambition, about forgiveness, and whether some wounds ever completely heal. As we follow Neil Young's remarkable life from his earliest childhood to the height of international fame, we'll uncover the relationships that shaped him, the triumphs that transformed him, and the private struggles that revealed the man behind the legend. Only then will we understand why one relationship stands apart from all the others, and why its emotional impact continues to echo through the final chapters of his life. But to understand that mystery, we first have to understand the man. Neil Young entered the world on November 12, 1945, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, only weeks after the end of the Second World War. His father, Scott Young, was already building a respected career as a journalist and novelist. His mother, Edna Blow Young, devoted herself to raising the family. From the outside, there's appeared to be a stable middle-class household. Yet beneath that appearance, life was already becoming complicated. As a child, Neil faced challenges that many fans never realized. He battled serious health problems, including diabetes during childhood and, most notably, polio during the devastating epidemic of the early 1950s. Although he recovered, the illness left lasting physical effects. Years later, subtle differences in his gait and movement remained reminders of a battle fought before he was even a teenager. For many children, such experiences would have become defining limitations. For Neil Young, they became fuel. Music gradually became more than entertainment. It became freedom. Growing up, he listened to everything he could find: early rock and roll, country music, folk traditions, rhythm and blues, and emerging electric guitar sounds crossing the Canadian border from the United States. Artists like Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Bob Dylan helped shape his imagination. Yet even as a teenager, Neil resisted copying anyone else. He admired innovation more than popularity. That independent streak became even stronger after his parents' marriage collapsed. Their divorce deeply affected him. Like many children navigating separated families, Neil found himself adapting to changing homes, changing routines, and changing expectations. The experience quietly taught him a lesson that would echo throughout adulthood. Relationships, no matter how strong they appear, can unexpectedly break apart. It was a painful realization, one he would encounter again and again. As he entered his teenage years in Winnipeg, music evolved from hobby into obsession. He began performing with local bands, experimenting with different sounds, chasing opportunities wherever they appeared. Success did not arrive overnight. There were countless rehearsals, tiny venues, unreliable equipment, and uncertain futures. But something was already obvious. Neil Young wasn't trying to become famous. He was trying to become authentic. That distinction would define his entire career. In the mid-1960s, opportunity finally arrived when he relocated to California, where a chance meeting with fellow Canadian musician Bruce Palmer helped lead to the formation of Buffalo Springfield alongside Stephen Stills, Richie Furay, and others. The group quickly became one of the defining bands of the era. Their music blended folk, rock, and political awareness into something fresh and influential. Songs like For What It's Worth, written by Stephen Stills, became cultural landmarks, while Neil's own songwriting revealed an emotional depth that set him apart. Yet even during these early successes, another pattern emerged. Neil rarely stayed comfortable. Creative disagreements surfaced. Different artistic visions clashed. Where others preferred compromise, Neil often preferred change. When he believed a project no longer reflected his artistic instincts, he moved on. Some called him difficult, others called him fearless. Perhaps he was both. After Buffalo Springfield dissolved, Neil embarked on a solo career that immediately demonstrated how impossible he was to categorize. One album embraced fragile acoustic storytelling. The next exploded with distorted electric guitars. Commercial expectations meant little to him compared with artistic honesty. His reputation only grew stronger after joining Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, where his songwriting and guitar work helped create some of the most influential music of an era already overflowing with legendary talent. Yet harmony inside the group often proved elusive. After Buffalo Springfield dissolved, Neil embarked on a solo career that immediately demonstrated how impossible he was to categorize. One album embraced fragile acoustic storytelling. The next exploded with distorted electric guitars. Commercial expectations meant little to him compared with artistic honesty. His reputation only grew stronger after joining Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, where his songwriting and guitar work helped create some of the most influential music of an era already overflowing with legendary talent. Yet harmony inside the group often proved elusive. Neil's perfectionism frequently collided with equally strong personalities. Creative conflicts became almost inevitable. Reunions were followed by departures. Collaborations were followed by disagreements. To outsiders it looked chaotic. To Neil, it was simply the price of refusing to compromise his artistic vision. Over the decades that followed, he built one of the most respected catalogs in modern music, earning multiple Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions, critical acclaim, and generations of devoted fans. But awards never seemed to change him. He remained outspoken, unpredictable, and willing to make unpopular decisions if they aligned with his conscience. That same uncompromising nature shaped more than his music. It shaped every important relationship in his life. The qualities that made Neil Young a legendary artist, his honesty, stubborn independence, relentless perfectionism, and refusal to pretend, also made loving him extraordinarily complicated. As fame grew, so did the emotional cost. Behind the celebrated albums, sold-out concerts, and historic collaborations were relationships tested by distance, demanding careers, personal convictions, family responsibilities, and heartbreak. And somewhere among the remarkable women who entered his life, one relationship would leave an emotional mark unlike any other. The question is no longer whether that relationship changed him. By the time Neil Young became one of rock's most respected voices, the public had already formed a simple image of him. A brilliant songwriter. A fiercely independent artist. A man who seemed to follow only his own compass. But beneath the albums, awards, and sold-out arenas was a far more complicated personal life. One marked by profound love, painful separation, lifelong devotion, and difficult choices that often unfolded far from the spotlight. If the mystery surrounding one woman has endured for decades, it is because there wasn't just one important relationship. There were several. Each represented a different chapter of Neil Young's emotional journey, and each left its own mark. To understand which relationship came closest to becoming one he struggled to forgive, we must examine them all, not through rumor, but through documented history. Long before worldwide fame transformed his life, Neil Young was married to Susan Acevedo. Compared with his later relationships, relatively little is publicly known about their marriage. That has only fueled speculation over the years. The two married in 1968, during a period when Neil's career was accelerating at extraordinary speed. Success was arriving almost faster than anyone could have imagined. Touring schedules expanded. Recording sessions became constant. New creative opportunities appeared almost monthly. For many young couples, sudden fame can place enormous strain on a relationship. The demands are relentless. Privacy disappears. Time together becomes increasingly rare. Although neither Neil nor Susan publicly shared extensive details about their marriage, Public records show that the relationship ended after only a few years. There were no sensational interviews, no public accusations, no memoir exposing hidden betrayals. Instead, there was silence. Sometimes silence says more than headlines ever could. Their marriage simply became another reminder that the life of an internationally touring musician rarely leaves room for ordinary domestic happiness. Because so little has been publicly documented, there is no reliable evidence that Susan became the lasting emotional wound hinted at by our story. Instead, she represents something different. The beginning. The first lesson that love and success do not always grow together. Then came the relationship that would define more than 2 decades of Neil Young's life. In 1978, Neil married Peggy Young. Unlike many celebrity marriages built around glamour, theirs was rooted in shared responsibility and resilience. They met when Peggy worked as a waitress near Neil's ranch in California. What began quietly soon evolved into one of the longest and most admired partnerships in rock music. Together they raised a family while navigating extraordinary challenges. Their son, Ben Young, was born with cerebral palsy. Their son Zeke Young, from one of Neil's previous relationships, also lived with cerebral palsy. Their daughter Amber Jean Young was diagnosed with epilepsy. Rather than hiding these realities, Neil and Peggy gradually transformed personal hardship into purpose. The couple became deeply involved in advocacy for children with severe physical disabilities. Their experiences eventually inspired the creation of the Bridge School, an educational institution dedicated to helping children with complex communication and physical needs. The annual Bridge School benefit concerts became legendary. Some of the world's biggest musicians donated their time to support the cause. For years, Neil and Peggy appeared almost inseparable. She sang alongside him. She toured with him. She became part of his musical world as well as his family life. To fans, they represented endurance in an industry famous for broken relationships. But appearances rarely reveal everything. Neil's relentless work ethic never disappeared. Neither did his uncompromising personality. Friends and collaborators had long observed that he followed instinct above all else. When he believed something needed to change, he rarely hesitated. That quality produced remarkable music. It also made maintaining long-term relationships incredibly difficult. After more than 35 years together, the marriage unexpectedly came to an end. In 2014, Neil filed for divorce. The announcement stunned fans. There had been little public indication that such a dramatic shift was coming. Unlike many celebrity divorces, neither Neil nor Peggy launched public attacks against one another. Still, the emotional impact was unmistakable. Peggy later reflected on the end of the marriage in her memoir, Special Deluxe. Without descending into bitterness, she described the profound shock and heartbreak she experienced as her life changed almost overnight. Readers sensed enormous pain between the lines. Neil, meanwhile, remained characteristically private. He offered almost no detailed public explanation. That silence created a vacuum. Speculation rushed to fill it. Some interpreted the divorce as evidence of betrayal. Others believed the couple had simply grown apart after decades together. The truth is that public evidence remains limited. Their story is undeniably heartbreaking. But heartbreak is not the same as unforgiveness. Around the same period, another woman entered Neil Young's life. Actor and environmental activist Daryl Hannah. The relationship immediately attracted enormous media attention. To many observers, the timing overshadowed everything else. Headlines focused on comparisons. Fans debated whether moving on so quickly after such a long marriage reflected poorly on Neil. Others argued that outsiders knew almost nothing about the private realities inside either relationship. Neil largely ignored the noise. So did Daryl. Rather than responding to endless speculation, they continued building a life together centered around shared environmental activism, artistic collaboration, and mutual support. The couple married in 2018. Since then, Hannah has frequently appeared alongside Neil during public appearances, advocacy campaigns, and creative projects. Those close to them have often described their relationship as deeply supportive, though both continue to guard their privacy carefully. Ironically, Daryl became connected to the mystery not because of conflict between her and Neil, but because many people assumed she must have caused the end of his previous marriage. Reliable evidence has never fully supported that simplistic narrative. Relationships rarely collapse because of a single moment. More often, they change gradually over many years. Beyond marriage, several women also played meaningful roles in Neil's artistic life. Female musicians collaborated with him. Producers, singers, activists, and creative partners influenced different periods of his career. Yet none appear, based on documented evidence, to have left the kind of lasting emotional scar suggested by our investigation. Instead, one consistent pattern emerges. Neil Young has often struggled less with people than with impossible choices. Career versus family. Creative freedom versus stability. Privacy versus public expectation. His relationships were often challenged by the very qualities that made him an extraordinary artist. He pursued authenticity relentlessly, even when it carried painful personal consequences. And perhaps that is why so many people misunderstand his story. The greatest wounds in Neil Young's life may not have come from dramatic public betrayals at all. They may have come from decisions that had no perfect outcome. Yet one question still refuses to disappear. When biographers compare every major relationship, when memoirs are placed beside interviews, when decades of public records are examined together, one woman consistently stands at the center of the deepest emotional turning point in Neil Young's life. Looking back across his extraordinary life, the relationship that carried the greatest emotional weight was undoubtedly his marriage to Peggy Young. Together, they built a family, faced unimaginable challenges, created the Bridge School, and shared more than 3 decades of life side by side. Their eventual separation wasn't marked by public accusations or dramatic revelations, but by quiet heartbreak that left fans searching for answers that never fully came. Perhaps that's why this story continues to fascinate people decades later. It reminds us that even the strongest relationships can change, and that love alone doesn't always guarantee a lifetime together. Some chapters end without clear explanations, leaving behind memories, unanswered questions, and lessons that only time can reveal. In his later years, Neil Young has spoken less about the past and more about music, family, and the future. Rather than dwelling on old wounds, he has continued creating, advocating for causes he believes in, and living life according to his own convictions. Whether forgiveness came quietly or remained a private journey is something only he truly knows. In the end, this isn't a story about scandal or revenge. It's a story about love, sacrifice, difficult choices, and the emotional cost of living an uncompromising life. Neil Young's greatest legacy isn't just the music he created, it's the honesty with which he lived, even when that honesty came with painful consequences. And perhaps that's the lesson his story leaves behind, that life's deepest relationships don't have to last forever to shape who we become, and sometimes the greatest acts of forgiveness happen far away from the public eye, where no headlines can ever tell the whole story.